Alright everyone, welcome along there. Training Tuesday. So, let's look at what we're doing this week, okay? And there is stuff that I'd wanted to do this week, but I thought, no, I need to go back. There's a couple of things that I said I would do, and there's a couple of things that have been announced really recently. So I thought, well, let's actually do that, focus on that for today, right? And then we can kind of figure out a few more things with what we're going to do as we try and go from zero to hero champion. Alright, so two things that I thought we should really look at and get our heads around, right? The first thing is flows, right? Now, flows or Power Automate scripts, I think it's something that you need to understand because it can make so much of a difference to what you're doing with your Power BI things and with everything else that we've got going on. Now, the bit for me that's still a little bit with them at times is I think they are still developing. It is still a moving feast, so it's something keep going back, keep looking into. There is more coming. So I'll do some really basic starting things for you today in terms of linking it into what you're doing, right? But honestly, I've gone a lot further with what we use them for professionally now as well. So there's a lot of power there. It isn't talked about very much, but it will make a massive difference to what you're doing. And the second thing is this week, Microsoft announced, or last week, sorry, Microsoft announced at Build that they were doing Datamarts in the Power BI service. And I was like, oh, Datamarts, what's this, right? And I've seen, like lots of videos talking about, right? And I don't think they quite get it. The closest, I think, is what Matthew Roche has said, saying, Matthew Roche, saying, like data flows with benefits, okay? I get it. It is kind of closer to that, but I think a lot of what Microsoft are putting out there, it's missing the point of what the difference is for me as a developer in the community and probably what it would mean to you in your businesses and what you're doing. So I think, honestly, amazing, massive step forward, like everything that I've been asking for. And I think even thinking about it, 3 or 4 weeks ago in one of our videos, I even kind of called out that there aren't data, that these don't exist yet, right? So Microsoft were listening to me. I'm bugged, right? So let's cut an hour anyway, right, and have a look at these things and see what we can do with them and what I'm talking about, yeah? Alright, so flows, right? Now I set this up ages ago. I'm sure I did a video on this where I set this up, right? If I didn't, I didn't, and I meant to do it, and I set it up meaning to do it. But let's have a look at this, right? This is a simple flow that you can set up, okay? This is as simple as it comes in terms of getting it into your environment. So what this flow does is it's running when a data flow completes. Okay? So when a data flow completes, refresh the data set. Because if you think about it, as you've got your data flows that you've got running, right, they need to complete before you can run the data set or refresh the data set on them, right? Don't you? So, well, that has to happen, doesn't it? So we're going to do that to then go, right, this. And what in practice it means you end up doing is if you've got multiple data flows needed to run your job, yeah? So like our food hygiene data set that we've got, right, with all the pretty pictures of the food hygiene in the UK, sorry, in England, right, that's running, there's 9 data flows are running that because we've got each region. If you remember when we talked about it, we went through a regional thing, and it's because it's a web scrape and there's just being sensible about managing that. So what you can do is you can use something like this to go through and have a single schedule running on it. But you go, well, you've got a data flow running a data set. Like, that's not going to do out for me, is it? Right? So if we went back and we said, right, let's create a new automated data flow, right, call this food. Food! Right, create a tree. Food, I'll call it food. any, right? Because you need to do this one for each of your flows, right? And you'd be like, oh, stupid thing, man. Okay, so when a data flow completes, I'm going to create that. So we're going to pick the environment. It's going to be a workspace, because it's a Power BI workspace, isn't it? Pick the workspace that it's in, for DF UK Food Hygiene, and then pick the one that we want, right? So northeast. Okay, so we've got that picked. Ta-da! Right? Now, one of the things that we did initially, or the first thing that I showed you, right? So I could say, let's take a data flow. Again, right? So this time, refresh a data flow. So I could pick and say, well, we know we're going to pick the next one down from there. So let me just pick that again. UK Food Hygiene. Let's pick Northwest. Okay, so Northwest. So we'll go through Northeast finishes, refresh Northwest. Right? Job's a good one. Sounds fantastic. Right? And we could go through and we could do that. Okay, it is possible to set these up and have it doing things where it waits for the results. You then have one script going through and doing them all. Right? It's then running for a long time, not doing much, just waiting. Okay, so I would say probably do one for each. For all it sounds like a lot of work, it'll work. It's really simple. Okay, but you're going, well, what happens if Northeast fails? Right, that didn't work. Okay, well, okay, we can do that. So if we delete this, create a new step, and use a switch, okay? So a switch control, and we can then say success. I think it's success, isn't it? Let's check what it is. So you'll see you've got a refresh status. And if we hover over here, it tells you success, failed, or cancelled, okay? So for success or failed, we can have conditions, okay? So we could say for success, the data flow that I want to refresh is going to be my workspace, my food hygiene, Northwest. If it failed, let's do me data flow, me food hygiene, workspace, food hygiene, and then not DF food hygiene, and this time Northeast, wasn't it? Because this is a failure. Sorry, Northeast. Okay, so I've got this other. Right? You're going, well, I like that. That looks pretty clever, you're saying, right? You know, maybe this Ross just about knows what he's doing. Maybe he's worth listening to. But, okay, he hasn't understood this, has he? Because it could be something else that we've done, right? What happens if you got a loop and you've got an error and it's going to be infinitely looping? Mr. Fancy Pants, right? Well, what you could also do, and I'm not going to show you how to do this, but it's not difficult to do. You can use a little feature called Microsoft Lists. So what you can do is you could use a SharePoint list or Microsoft Lists. With those, you can configure a list, and what you'll do is you'll write a value to it, write a line every time a flow finishes. And the reason this is why I'm not going to do it for you here, because if you go down that route, you then start to use that list as your flow repository, or in terms of this is what we've done with our automation this week, month, year, whatever, right? Microsoft already has reports in there, so you know, think through as to whether it's something you want to do or not, or where it's going to go. As I say, SharePoint lists will handle it, a list will handle it, and it's just writing a line in, so that's a no-code way. You might have somebody saying, oh, we want you to do something else, right? But this will work. Put in a list, you write a row down, put an integer in for it, okay? And then you read that value in just after you've done the first refresh. Read it in. Increment it if it's failed. Otherwise, reset. So on your success, when you write it back, reset it back to 0. for example, because it's so successful. So you then see northeast is 0 would mean success. So it's like an error code almost, isn't it? Right? If it's on 0, everything's fine. But you'd see, oh, it went 1, 2, 3. And then for your under here, you'd be doing an evaluation. If the value of that is less than, run a refresh it again, increment it and write it. Okay, so you'd say, if it's less than 5, do it. So the highest it would go would be 5, wouldn't it? Because you'd write 5, and then you'd read it, and it's 5. Failed. Okay, and do something different. So there's lots of things you can do, but if you do this, what you'll find, and we'll come back here, okay, I'm not going to save it, is what you want to do is have this duration of your flows being nice and short, don't you? Yeah, so what you want is to have a nice, efficient data flow, sets of efficient data flows. So you're probably better having having multiple data flows. So in the case of this, having 9 of them running in under a second each, right? 2 seconds maybe, right? Depending on what you do, how far you go with it, than having one that's going to trigger a job, wait, because it'll be open, consuming resource in your flow environment. For it will be minuscule, the resource it's consuming, it's waiting, it's going to be there. If you have the 8 of them and they just kind of run, execute, complete, run, execute, complete, right, and you track those, you'll be able to really quickly and easily identify where you've got problems, what's going on, is everything working well. And the best thing with all this is effectively you either end up going down the route of the first one you've got is just running on a schedule, and that's where your scheduling for your Power BI refreshing of your environment is going to be, or you would run it as your first, you just do it as a one job has got a refresh. Datamarts. Okay, so I had a look at this, right, and I did the food hygiene piece with this. Right? Now, one of the things, right, real pain points for me, for everybody, right, has been around that you can't do like a data set in a PBIX file. You can't just have just a data set, right? So I'm hoping that's going to be something that's going to come out from this, because that's what your Datamarts are bringing to the table, really. This is my new primary report file, isn't it? Right? This is the master file. This is the main. This is the big daddy, as well. You know, it's where everything's important. So what I've done, right, was I took 5 minutes, right, and I copied the stuff out of me PBIX file into here. Okay, so suddenly I've got all my tables in, and you go, well, I could have done that in data flows, couldn't I? You know, data flows, feeding data flows, all that, right? Yeah, you can. You're right. Okay, but what I've done here is I've used it as a data mart, so it now has relationships. On top of relationships, it also now has measures. Okay, so this is now a fully functioning, capable primary Power BI file. Effectively, to all intents and purposes, that's what it is. Okay, and that to me is the massive game changer that these are going to bring to the table. Okay, so I'm still going to look at this. Right, I've still got the other one. I am going to gradually look to transfer the stuff over. Right, there's some things that we're going to do with the food hygiene data set that I've originally got. Oh, I'm going to do this. Show you some extensions on it. Right, show you actually how do we expand a data set? How do you start to enterprise-wide your model? Okay, this is perfect for it because we've got UK food hygiene. Okay, so what do you reckon then? Okay, Flow or Microsoft Flows and Datamarts. Okay, they are changing everything that we do. Right, being able to schedule your refreshes using your flows and have, or rather move away from a traditional schedule and use flows to loop through things and go down the chain, right, makes a huge difference to it. That makes it much more efficient. It allows you to use your capacity, if you've gone down the premium capacity, much more efficiently. And you're not limited to just what the Power BI platform has, because we're using more. You can see we've got the potential to use Power Platform data flows as well. And you can also have all sorts of things. You can have it email in here, you can have other interactions with it. So there's a lot there that flows will do for you. The other thing we talked about today was the Datamarts. Okay, this primary model that you're going to have that's managed, set up, controlled, configured in the cloud. You saw what could do the roles in there. I still say be careful with roles in Power BI. That's one of the things I hear, oh, I need roles, right? I've done enough role-based stuff to know when you need roles, you need them and you need to do them, but they add overhead to your model, and to your work, because you've always got to think and add to all your tests, does this now work against the roles? So all that stuff works now, fully embedded in the cloud, rather than it being something that you've got as a PBIX file on your laptop or on your desktop. And even if you've got OneDrive for Business and SharePoint and you're doing this, right, you're just having to then work out, checking it out, managing it, dealing with it, doing stuff. Somebody's updated it online, because you can do things, some of it online anyway, right? It makes such a difference. If we can use Datamarts now as our primary, this is where the data is coming from or in from. We then have the data set that we're going to manage separately. We then have the secondary reports that we're going to manage separately. And those secondary reports are what we would use our PBIX files for, how we would build that visualization layer in Report Editor, which is kind of what you want the report creator to do, just kind of create the report side, the visuals, make them look pretty, okay? That's what you've got. So it's going to change everything. And I think getting your head around the automation of flows and then being able to start thinking through how you're going to structure and author your primary stuff will make the difference. So what I'll do this week is I'm going to check and finish all this rejiggery pokering out on here, right? And then next week, let's bring in some postcodes, let's bring in some IMD stuff, and let's find out, does it make a difference if you've got, or is there a difference between more affluent areas and less affluent areas in terms of food hygiene? Does it make a difference? Does it not make a difference? Is there a difference in terms of like the percentage of establishments that are of a particular type? I don't know, right? Honestly, I don't know. I've never done this. That's the point though, isn't it? That's what we're starting to figure out as we're doing more data analytics and as we're going from zero to hero. So stay safe, take care, and we'll catch up next week. Cheers. Ta-da.